Do take two.
We'll let that traffic go by, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah, something. Tell me when it's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Um, there was a thing. There's a quality you have which I seem to have noted through the years, which is the moment a subject gets serious in any form of conversation, under any circumstances, you tend to go into character of somebody and take the point of view of some idiot, but do a voice.
Yeah, I think I do that less now, and I'm glad I do it less. It's a very easy way of, if you have voices, to sort of get out of any personal responsibility in an argument. That's what I've used it for always. Often I think it's a very good way of making points. It's not always a sort of cop-out. But I can often be heard talking in what I conceive to be my own voice these days,
No.
which is roughly similar to the one I'm using now.
Yeah.
I think it is, in any case.
It is indeed. In terms of the last 5 or 6 years, how do you think we stand politically in this country now, and where do you think we're going?
Well, I would hope in the next few years that politicians will catch up with common sense and realise they can't go on television and tell lies, half lies, without being found out. And that politicians who go on television, one Conservative, one Liberal, one Labour, and make party points are just boring the audience stiff and making the public despise them. I would hope a few of them would see the political good sense of being honest and straightforward. I mean, it would be the most politically captivating thing for any major politician to actually tell the truth and talk honestly to people. Just hasn't happened up to now.
When you say I would hope, are you optimistic about it?
Well, not really with the lot we've got there at the moment. I can't see it happening unless Wilson, for example, who is always called this supremely excellent politician, I think he'll be in this desperate dilemma of realising the only way of getting through to people is to be honest and straightforward and tell the truth. And he'll be so out of practice, it will be very tricky for him.
What about George Brown?
Well, I'm a great admirer of George Brown. He's been right on every big issue in politics. And his social indiscretions I find entertaining. I would hope that he continues, and I'd hope that his belief in joining Europe and so on is far stronger than anybody else in the present government, and I hope he stays. And I'm a great admirer of him.
Do you think there's any chance that he will stay?
I think yes. I think at the moment he's at the Foreign Office when everybody thought he'd be sacked or asked to move, but I think he's the sort of man who changes the locks. And they say, George, we'd like you to go. And you say, you can't, I've got the keys, and I'm staying there. And you can't very well rush up and seize him and hurl him into jail. If he wants to stay somewhere, I think he'll stay there quite a long time. Or else if he is pushed out, I think he'll be quite a powerful figure on the backbenches.
Do you think he could settle into the backbenches?
I don't think he'd settle there, but I think he'd gather quite a following round him. I'm sure he's much better liked than practically any other Labour politician at this particular time.
Practically everybody we've talked to here, and including politicians, we haven't had anybody who hasn't expressed admiration for Brown's ability. Most of them seem to think that the indiscretions are going to undo him eventually, and the one person said, I think, probably, the one post in which these indiscretions are unacceptable is that of the Foreign Office.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think that a Michael Stewart figure who, as far as I know, commits no indiscretions whatsoever, was any more equipped to be in the Foreign Office than George Brown. I think George Brown is probably well liked abroad. I'm told, it may not be true, that he is quite well liked by President Johnson, who is for my money, the most underestimated man in the world today, and I would bet that in whatever it is, 3 years' time, that he would be one of the most powerful, most reforming presidents America's had. He's absolutely loathed by everybody. I can't think why. It's not because of because of his ways and his background and the sort of deviousness with which he's been connected in the past.
Can you enlarge a little bit on why you like him or admire him?
I don't like him. I never met him. But he, poor soul, until very recently, has been attempting to be like what he thinks people would want him to be. So this awful figure has emerged on television, completely stiff and wooden, and appearing to sort of preach gentle homilies to the nation. And apparently on the box just about a week ago, he actually was like he is in private, i.e. ranting and roaring and striding about and shaking his fists in the air and beating his chest and talking with great conviction about what he seemed to care about. I think if he does that and goes through with his policies, which are broadly the same social policies as Kennedy was trying to get through, he will go down as a rather good president. Don't care about his motives for why he wants social reform in the United States. He may be just because he wants to retain power and it's the politically expedient thing to do. But I think he's one of the best people to do it.
What about his foreign policies?
Well, I think he is a bit lost there. I don't know what. I've no idea what will happen. I don't think he has any particular foreign policies. I think he has some good advisors. I was reasonably in support of McNamara. I think there's some very intelligent people there. I don't think of him as a sort of aggressive warmonger or anything like that. I think he's genuinely confused, and if he can see any way out of any of his difficulties, he would seize it.
What are your own views as to what should be done about Vietnam?
Well, whoever the American was who said, declare a victory and get out. You just announce to all the world that you've won the war and you're leaving immediately and you're letting the South Vietnamese democratic government get on with it, and they're perfectly able to govern themselves, and all is well, and Vietnam will be neutral, and it's a marvellous triumph for America, not to believe any communist propaganda which may be put out by ailing men such as Ho, not to listen to any nonsense put out by Tass. We've won the war, and it's only sporting to get out. We don't want to ground people's faces in the mud. And so, ta-ta, we're off. Then get out.
What would happen in South Vietnam then?
What would happen in South Vietnam? The vast majority of the people would have some say in a communist government.
It
Which wouldn't, yeah.
It would be a communist government.
Well, it'd have to be. It couldn't keep on that Key or Thieu. I think Key and Thieu might be through, but we've got enough money to give them a large private account in a Swiss bank, and they can go over and join the film stars in Lausanne. That's where they belong. They shouldn't be in charge of a country.
Well, in effect, South Vietnam would not be a neutral country. It would be a united.
But Vietnam
North.
would be neutral in a similar way to Yugoslavia. I mean, it wouldn't be a sort of a Chinese satellite or a Russian satellite. It would be a Vietnamese communist state. But I just think it would take a thoroughly independent line.
So, in fact, the North, in that case, the North really would have the victory.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's a very interesting idea.
Not mine, I wish it was.
Other political figures in this country, do you see any future prime ministers in whom you would have any faith?
No, I can't see any future prime ministers. Everyone's talking about Jenkins now because he's intellectually perceptive and has silver tea services and so on, and has a wide range of interesting friends. But I can't see him being prime minister. I can't really believe that Heath will be, but I suspect he will. I think he'll probably be prime minister.
What about Callahan?
Honest Jim, I don't know why he comes in for all this praise at the moment. I think having made a complete mess of his job, and it's no good saying through no fault of his own, it's completely through his own fault, he then somehow emerges unscathed because he made the one speech in the House of Commons which admitted some kind of guilt. Even that wasn't very strong. It wasn't we've made a complete mess of everything and therefore I'm getting out. It is sort of due to seasonal factors such as canals being closed and unprecedented war and weather breaking out and foot and mouth disease, we've been pushed into this position. And I'm not a great admirer of him as a political leader. He's quite nice.
Hold it there. We'll do one more reel if we may, because we're getting into some